I can go back.
Oh, okay. I don't know
Chief
what it's
in
in
here?
regard to. Yep.
Oh,
Howdy.
did you need me here, Chief?
You don't have to be if you don't want to. You can talk about the
Why?
DOJ meeting as well as
Uh,
what just transpired, so it doesn't catch them off guard.
oh, okay. I'll just listen if that's okay, because.
That's fine. Two things. I want to talk about a meeting we had with DOJ, as well as inform you that we let an officer go within the LSPD today, which I'm sure you'll hear about.
I've also
If
let
you have
him
any
go.
questions. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry,
You're
go
aware
ahead.
of it.
I kind of put two and two together, but
Okay.
but I'd like to hear it from you.
All right. Carmine, unfortunately, has been given too many chances here.
Yeah.
He's decided to essentially give away the keys to a PD vehicle, which led to, this civilian he was doing a ride along with. To break laws. He initially lied when questioned about it. He covered a dash cam. Inexcusable. The decision was made to let him go.
That is more than fair.
So just before, people start talking in your ear,
Yeah.
you hear from me first.
May I ask, after he gave the keys to the civilian, how long did he have the vehicle for? And did
Enough to hit 187 miles an hour while in the passenger seat in city limits.
Gotcha. Okay. I imagine that this firing goes well beyond that as well.
I mean, there's absolutely many. There's a trend, and unfortunately, it's not about procedure. Although some of it can be attested to procedure.
Who did he give keys
it's
to?
More so about judgment. A ride along named, I believe it was Tommy Tinker.
He should have been fired just for being in the car, to be honest. Okay, fair enough.
So, like I said, just inform me about that. The next is DOJ.
Yep.
We had that conversation yesterday with them after we spoke at the meeting. We went over a lot of things, as well as he said be willing to have a conversation with myself and Bailey, and we could vet some things out and understand expectations and standards a little bit more in depth.
Yeah.
It was more so a general meeting yesterday. Today we want to get in some details.
Think of the downfall of Carmine for 3 seasons now, bro.
I would say the meeting was
good.
You describe that meeting, Maxwell. I don't know if productive's the word, but
it got intense. Spicy.
Really?
Unproductive.
How'd it get?
Moment.
What the fuck?
Grayson and Bailey have history, and so that
definitely a battle of the egos.
Yes.
Oh.
I did 7 months. You did 7 years. I did more. No, I did more. But they have.
I was here
and that's
before
why.
both of them, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
So, if you ever need a dick swung around, feel free to give me a call.
Well, I mean, truthfully, I backed Bailey in the direction he was taking it because I wanted answers, and Grayson was fairly diligent in his dancing around the answer. At one point, he said he's not here to train people or help people out, help the PD out, in the sense of put them in the right direction. And then the very next minute, he does that, and then I question about it, and he says, "Well, I just did it, did I not?" He said, "Well, it seemed like he was, I guess, for lack of a better term, flying on the edge of his seat, trying to think of responses there."
Yeah. May I ask, is this about the search and seizure stuff?
Part of it, yeah. More so, it was supposed to be more details as to what I expect in the future, because there's obviously change coming. There's obviously change here.
Kind of.
Well, that's what we're dealing with, though. We're dealing with a change in how they are ruling on things, how they are approaching things. And that's what we're trying to understand. What is changed? What's happening? Or what should we expect? What do we expect in the future so we can teach our officers and prevent these bouts of search warrants and we're asking for a set of standards and understanding what they expect, and protections as well that we've been told about that they're going to work on, that are quote unquote still being worked on.
So I am going to let you in on some things. And so, okay. Okay. The law was in a really good spot 7 years ago. I think once the gates opened, things started going sideways. I think a big part of it being we allowed a dictator to take control of San Andreas. Was it interesting? Whatever, sure. But I think it made a massive cultural impact as to what the role of law enforcement is, what the law of the DOJ is, and whatnot. Now, that context matters because when things happen, there's a cultural impact. The way people think, the way things are expected to play out. From there came a set of, we had the whole problem with the DOJ where effectively Voldemort and her disciples decided to make egregious, illegal, personal changes to the law instead of taking this new constitution and legislation and evolving it forward, right? So for the past 7 months, law did not evolve. State legislation did not evolve, which is why when you look at the search and seizure legislation today, it looks like a child just slapping a bunch of paragraphs in. You with me?
Yeah.
And that long-standing war, I would say, ended about 2 weeks ago when the last of the ilk stepped down and new ones stepped in, many of which come with the background of ages old. Now, the reason why this matters is it's important to keep in mind that, Grayson is like a week in. Sean is, I think, 2 weeks in. The only one that's been there for more than 3 months or even not even 3 months is Faulkner. So they're still going to they still need to get their bearings in place and even internally come to some decisions. Now, that doesn't mean that you guys don't need answers or whatnot, but that at least speaks to why they're not going to have answers for decisions made by those that are not. He's not going to be able to speak to justices that are no longer here, right? What is happening and is my office, as well as the meeting that we partook in on Monday, we actually addressed this area we addressed the root cause of why search and seizures are problematic, et cetera, and I'll explain. Right now, core principles are not defined in legislation. What it is reasonable suspicion, what is probable cause, what is preponderance of evidence. If you go pull Jaina and you go pull Grayson and you have them write those definitions down, they will not have the same definition. If you pull different officers, they're not going to have the same definition. And if there is not an agreement on those things, certainly you're not going to expect any sort of stability in decision making when it comes to whether or not a warrant is valid or invalid. You're certainly not going to get consistency in the case that there is an attempt to overturn a warrant. You guys with me so far?
Absolutely. I mean, this is what we've been asking them for.
Mm-hmm.
And
even something saying they're working on a direction to fix that, right?
there is one. I don't really know what their direction is. I mean, I do kind of. I'm helping to prescribe it as of a phone call I just made about an hour ago. I talked to Grayson shortly after this meeting. And I'll tell you what I prescribed to him. And as of yesterday, we already started cooking from our office. We have a draft document up that is defining these core definitions. I don't know what it's going to be called. encyclopedia. Maybe just it's going to be a part of Criminal Code of San Andreas. I don't know. But we're listing out what are the core legal definitions that need strict definition in place, right? And then we're going to build from that. The second thing that needs to happen is that this search and seizure document, which is complete dog ass, is going to be, number one, reformatted. That's what I asked Grayson to do. I said, because he told me, we want to sit down and have meetings and blah, 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 blah. I told him that's not the way to do it, because you're going to get in the same. What ends up happening is if you take a document, and you've seen this, I'm sure, is if you take that massive document and you completely redo it, it's going to end up like the penal code problem, right? If you go take this thing and then put this fix in and that fix in and you completely rewrite it, what's going to happen is there'll be 20 contention points, let's say, where Maxwell doesn't agree with one of the paragraphs. You don't agree with another one. I don't agree with something. Princess doesn't agree. That document's going to end up in legislative limbo. There's no reason. Someone's going to have a problem with something. They're going to contest it. It's stuck. Instead, I've prescribed that the number one thing they should do is reformat it into articles and sections. Article 1, searches on houses. Article 2, vehicles. Article 3, cell phones, as an example. Article 4, what needs to be in a warrant? How do you overturn? So instead of a blob of text, it's formatted properly. Do not change anything else in it. It's a format check. The next thing that needs to happen is if y'all have a issue, let's say, with search warrant, like there was an example brought up about VAFs, right? What is a vehicle that was used in a violent crime? Something like that. What I told them was, I actually agree that if a vehicle, interference vehicle, picks up a shooter in a violent crime, that vehicle is subject to VAF. It was inherently used in a violent crime. If there is confusion over this, maybe in the judiciary, maybe it's not being articulated properly in law enforcement. I don't know, because I don't have access to those things. But that has always been the intent. And so if there is confusion based on vague writing and legislation, I'm going to point you at a document written by one of y'all tow workers, by the way, that shows, and I'm going to give this to you, Maxwell and Turner. I'm going to just email it to you guys because I don't think I can share it. Hold on, give me a sec.
Which tow operator?
I don't know. Mr. Yappy calls me like 2 times a day. Good guy, just very persistent. In fact, you should probably hire this nerd and just have him do your bills for you guys.
I know if it looks good, about. He's been, he's a bar.
I mean, I've been trying to get some things going with Bailey, but frankly, he's just extremely busy. So it's hard to put it on him. And I'm trying to find someone else who's going to be dedicated to that role as opposed to an officer who's already got a full agenda.
Right now I've got good news for you. I'm gonna come with bad news, so don't get too excited just yet. But I'm gonna email both of you guys this real quick.
All right. I like starting with bad news.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good, Viv.
Chief, are you aware that Rose is laying on the floor out here? And I asked her if she's okay, and she said, "No, I need the chief."
What?
Is she hurt, or is she just?
No, I don't think she's hurt, but she apparently needs you. I don't.
Oh my God.
Rosa.
Oh, hi, Chief.
Oh, is she upset?
Carmine's adamant that he's going to tell everyone that he quit. I said that's fine. He can tell everybody that, but it's going on our record that he was fired. He's welcome to reapply within 30 days.
Jesus.
We would like to see that.
Yeah.
He interrupted me to say something, so I said, "Let me finish." And he said, "This is probably the only time I'm ever going to be able to tell you, no, I will not let you finish, and just walked off. And I was like, okay, that's a great start, do you think?
That's a fucking Make it 31 days.
Quite a while, man. I'm going to be able to
I'm buttering. Yep.
What the
All right, apologies for
hell?
that.
No worries.
Jesus.
Let me see here.
I sent y'all just to maintain the formatting.
She okay?
Um,
I don't know. I'm gonna go and ask.
Okay.
Oh, we just need Carmine's keys taken, please. Everything
You don't know his name?
included.
His name's not on the document?
Okay, I'll do it right now.
Wes Lorcaine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We couldn't find all of
That's
his class
Lorcaine,
twos.
okay.
He
What?
Yeah.
had multiple class twos.
Check Sawyer's car.
Once we are done pushing some of the legislative changes in the next week, every member of High Command needs to write. Will have 2 weeks to write one bill in an area that they feel needs to be changed or altered to provide more clarity. Because, as you can see here, this tow operator was hired very recently was able to pull this together in a day.
Yeah, this guy's got a bar license, so he's not just your average tow operator too, right?
I expect every member of High Command and LSPD to be able to ride one.
Okay.
After that, after High Command has written their bills and presented it to the mayor's office, we will provide critique. After which every member of LSPD Command will do the same activity and lean on High Command for any guidance. These bills are written in a way that anyone with a, high school diploma should be able to write. If they're unable to write it, I question whether they're fit for any sort of governmental role. Because you do not need a law degree to do this. You just need to be able to write English and follow simple directions. So, while I petitioned the DOJ to be to fix things on their end, I'm equally going to be expecting LSPD Command to also utilize the avenues that we have created for them to make the changes they need. So I'm going to provide an example, and the reason I pointed you guys at this document is the VAF situation, right? And I'm gonna give you kind of a working example of how that would work. I recognize, for example, and tell me if I'm misrepresenting the problem, is currently the VAF legislation says if the vehicle is used in a violent crime, right, that is so grossly open to interpretation is causing you issues. A bill to resolve that would be titled, Bill CH blah, 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 expanding on the definition of violent use in VAF. Purpose: the Los Santos Police Department has found that, interference vehicles that are used in violent crimes are being overturned due to over need of articulation, despite being critical. I don't know, blah, 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 blah. Just, why is this happening? Details. The VAF legislation is going to be updated to further expand on the definition of what a vehicle is, what a vehicle in a violent crime is, or whatever. Implementation. We are rewording this sentence, or we are adding these sentences to expand on blah, blah, blah. Penal code, and then done. Then you just give it to me and we put it forward. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good idea to put together some sort of outline that we can hand out from maybe Michael.
To
explain kind of the
absolutely, and that will be part of. This is why it's probably not going to be. I'm not going to ask that. This is kind of like a heads up. Right now we are pushing a series of bills and updates. In fact, the latest one is the criminal code for robberies. By next week, we'll have some example bills and updated legislation in place, and we can have like a 30-minute seminar to describe how this works. We can record it so you could kind of share it with folks. And we could probably have some kind of, well, we should have a template by then as well.
Yeah, I think just a template and then some explanation as to, you know, if you're amending something as opposed to writing something new.
Yep.
You know, what the differences would be and then what the meat of each section is. And I mean, that frankly should be enough to explain it, at least for high command to then
and what
step in and help out.
And what I'm trying to solve here is, gone are the days where the DOJ control the law. They're only interpreters. Every citizen, every member of law enforcement who function as DAs, realistically, everyone has, and we've made it simple. Before, like with this, you know the VAF stuff that you guys were trying to push forward, you had to send this entire massive document out. The problem is, and to give you an idea, I haven't even seen the first draft, like this updated one. I may look at that and I'm like, this is not good, right? This bill system is aimed at if there is a particular problem with existing stuff. I mean, that's not to say that an entire VAF document cannot be pushed forward, but I'm sure you understand that you know, whether it's us, whether it's you guys, whether it's anybody that pushes a big document to be added, it's at risk of being at limbo for weeks on end, right? And instead, the bill encourages minor changes, push it often.
You're talking amendments, not writing new bills. Amendments to current bills.
Well, we don't technically have amendments. A bill is a alteration to existing legislation. So, and a bill
say
can
it one
say,
more time. I just want to make sure I heard that right.
Yes, a bill is a alteration or introduction of any legislative change. So a bill could be, we are introducing a complete rewrite. A bill could be amending a section. A bill can be 1 line, it could be 20 lines. But because we have introduced this mechanism called bills, if there is a certain 2-3 sentences that need to be changed, it can be done through a bill and it's like half a page, right?
Okay, so exactly like this bill that the tow operator put together. You're saying
exactly
he's adding to it.
He's adding or he's altering. Think of a bill as, think of a legislative document like VAF covering many, many, many legal points, right? There's a lot in there. But a bill is something that tackles a something specific, right? So, for example, adding other government employees to the attempted murder of a government employee thing, or adding a section to search and seizure that further expands on what is a night raid. And because they're chopped up in bite-sized changes, they're more likely to pass, right? Because you're not having to agree on a huge sweeping set of changes, but very particular targeted changes. Does that kind of make sense?
Somewhat, yes. I believe I'm understanding what you're putting down here.
Yeah.
So there are no amendments. New bills are essentially, you're stating your intent in it. Your intent is to either replace this bill or to add and modify or remove and modify.
Yeah, a bill.
State your intent.
A bill addresses a specific legislative change, as opposed to today where we rewrite entire documents.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
I know there was a revision, by the way, to the VAF legislation that was initially pushed, which I just sent over to you. I just got this yesterday, so I myself have not gone through it either.
Okay.
But just so you are on the loop as well, and I'm assuming it's going to be brought to you or to.
Like, if I look at this, this is going to take forever to. Like, this is going to take a while. This is probably going to sit there for a minute.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, it's something we're looking to push because of. I mean, frankly, there was again, nothing being done about a lot of vehicles that were being used in crimes, and it's a way to our goal is to combat using these personal supercars here in shootings and robberies and things like that, right? Essentially, right now, if it's not a violent situation, but they're interfering with one, you're looking at a $600 tow fee that, frankly, people, for lack of a better term, wipe their butt with.
Yeah.
There's no deterrent.
Yep. Understandable. Okay. Is there
which it was too harsh initially, which we met with Mr. Hernandez. We agreed upon, and
he's reviewed this one?
My understanding he has. I was asking for clarification on that. I have not heard back yet.
I think that's important to do.
Very important.
Yeah.
That's something that I've asked for clarification on. I haven't gotten that yet.
Okay.
It was late last night.
All right. I can hit him up as well to see what's going on.
Absolutely. They said they believe so, but
okay.
I asked for certainty. So, I can talk to him. You can talk to him. That's fine.
Do you have the mechanisms in place to do this, or does this require construction?
I don't believe it requires construction. It requires IT.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, IT, yes.
Is Trig open to doing the work?
I don't think it was Trig. I think it was another construction worker.
Oh.
Who I believe has been in contact with. I'm going to verify all that.
Yeah.
I was told essentially put it together, get it passed, and then, other things sorted out is what I was.
All right.
I won't say directly told, but pointed towards.
Okay. Good.
I'll
awesome.
verify that.
Absolutely. All right. So what I owe you is once we are ready, I will make sure that there's something in place to help explain how these bills work and whatnot. But like I said, the exercise and the reason I'm going to be pushing for this sort of thing is I want you not only to feel empowered, but to be at the forefront of change. If PD, as effectively the DA, is running into problems with legislation, literally anyone can put something forward. And you're always going to get feedback.
I was hoping to have someone.
Easy. Yep.
Truthfully, I want someone who it's their forte. I think finding the right person to do this is hard. I've been actively looking. Not publicly posting, but actively looking for someone and finding someone to actually do this as their job, not as a side gig.
I think that makes sense. I think if that's something you want to do, that's fine. But I do want to know that high command and command are familiar with writing legislation, just as they, I would assume, would expect to know how to write like a search and seizure, right? And
I'd say with instructions, with a template and outline of understanding what to do, absolutely. Yeah. I don't think there's anybody who would have a hard time with that in command.
Yep, I agree. Well, there's a tow guy looking for work.
Oh no, believe me, I got that name written down here.
I've already yes, I sat with him before the meeting today, sir, and he was originally applying for shift 2, but due to reasons, he's requested shift 1. Mm-hmm. He feels more comfortable joining shift 1 for the PD. So
Oh, really? Okay.
He's also bar license.
He might get hired for the PD, but not as a law enforcement officer.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if he's writing bills, I'm going to put him where we need him.
Yeah. Well, I would emphasize, Turner, that these bills, if a tow rider, like, anyone can write these. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And, so.
I'm definitely aware that, this is anybody can put these together.
But you want someone that is constantly like the expert.
That's their role. Yeah, right.
That makes sense.
I think a single point of contact, hey, we need a change on this. We need a change on this. We need a change on this. What do you think about this? And frankly, they're putting that together. They're talking to the appropriate people if they have to. They're putting together drafts. They're speaking with working with the mayor's office. Someone whose role is that? Someone who's going to be in a suit and tie all day, not in a with the duty belt on.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. Well, I thought this was a good meeting. Anything else you guys want to hit on?
I'm waiting for the bad news.
Oh, I gave you guys homework, or you were getting homework. That was the bad news.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Teach.
Yep. Anytime.
A question, Nino. For the VAF stuff, do you think that when they swap into a car after leaving, say, Polito bank robbery, after holding somebody hostage, is a
swap vehicle vaffable?
Right. To you?
Yes. Yeah, I said that in the beginning. 100%.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm going to go further and say, I don't know why you guys go with felony obstruction of justice. That's the charge used by those
I agree.
It doesn't make
I
any
agree.
sense.
That's the fail-safe catch-all, which sometimes isn't enough.
Well, my understanding is in the past, people have pushed accessory, and then we've been told, take it for what it is, we've been told that we don't have a way to prove that they're involved.
That doesn't make any sense.
They're not on radio, not on the same radio. They just, and then they're claiming, oh, I was just in the area and they hopped in the car.
There's a couple things.
Still accessory though, right?
Yes. There's a couple things to keep in mind is, remember, new justices, the old ones were cooked or absent.
Right.
And the second is that there are still magistrates, right? And magistrates don't need to have a lot of moose knuckles, and Jaina are not the mouthpiece of the rest. And that's not to say they're bad. It's it's not that they're bad. It's that the big thing is that the same incompetence fucks, minus like Falconer, literally were not training these people. They would literally just shit on them all day. Genuinely. So these guys are not only not being trained, but they're being lambasted when looking for guidance. Hopefully that changes. So do keep that in mind when you consider why did they do this or why did they do that. Is it was a very shitty working environment for them. I am very aware of that. I'm letting you guys know. Give them a little bit more consideration. However, as magistrates, they may make decisions based on them not knowing, right? And that's why appeals exist as well. If something weird happens with the decision, you have the right to appeal it, and it's a good thing to do it. Like judge does some wild shit, appeal it. The next is that there is still a dependency on articulation, right? And so without looking at this particular case itself, I don't want to make any broad statements, because let's say, for example, Maxwell, if you went to that Polito and I was the judge and you came to me and you articulated why it was how the driver of, you saw the people in the bank, they were in the car, and that car interfered, right? And you could articulate it. Yes, 100%. It's an accessory of violence. However, if let's say, a new cop, let's say a cadet PPO, could not articulate it, and they're just like, well, this red car touched my car, right? And that's it. They didn't connect the dots. Then
give me an example. Give me an example you would believe is enough to articulate. You go to a Polito robbery. They get inside of a vehicle they stole. They drive from Polito. They get to the city. They hop into another car. The car is owned, personally owned. How are you going to articulate that vehicle was involved? Your personal articulation.
You articulate it from the point of the robbery all the way down to the swap, underlining that the individuals documented to have robbed and held people up went into that vehicle. You maintain contact, visual contact of it, and then apprehended the vehicle. Yeah.
All right. Well, the violent robbery, the violent crime had already taken place. They're no
doesn't
longer
matter.
part of it.
No, it is.
Well, this is where things get very gray.
It's
depends
not.
Who you're talking
it's
to. And this is why things.
Those people are wrong.
I believe you.
Yeah. Because gray, I don't want to say gray because there is no gray. There needs to be,
right.
This is a better conversation with other people, to be honest. There is no gray.
I know what you're
There
saying,
is no gray. Genuinely, there is no gray.
I understand.
Yeah.
But it depends who you're talking to. And when those people you're talking to are making the same decisions to decide whether someone's guilty is problematic. And again, this is why we go back to things with DOJ. We need things clear cut, black and white. And I've been asking for that for some time. I've been asking for even a letter saying, "Hey, we're going to work towards that."
The problem
I can't get
is
a straight answer from that.
The problem is though, Turner, is that there the scenario we just described, right? It all comes down to articulation, and the amount of articulation necessary is going to be dependent on the opinion of the judge. That's just how justice works. It's how a judiciary works. It is fundamentally based on opinion and them having different bars that need to be crossed. And the reason I say that is myself maybe articulating it into a report, Maxwell articulating it into a report, we're going to have, let's say, a higher level of competency than a PPO or a member of the Blaine County Sheriff's Office, if I'm going to be honest, who might, like, in the report say, like, for all I know, yo, dog, I saw some guy in all black. He robbed the, you know what I'm saying? Like, if one writes it shit and the other one doesn't, you're going to get two different responses from the judge, right? So,
well, then it goes down to the documentation, where if we forget to check if it was tampered with, if we don't have a photo of the car, maybe one judge wants it on the scene and the other one doesn't care, that as long as they have a photo of it. So
the photo is necessary. It is,
but on scene, not necessarily, question mark.
Wait, what do you mean on scene? Like they want the photo
when they crash out, right? As far as I know, again, it's probably happened once, but I know that some people just have it towed immediately because they're trying to.
Okay. So that's a fair point. The photo, police should always do more than what they think they need in order to get a conviction. Because if you are doing the bare minimum, and I'm not saying you guys are, but to use the example you used, if you do the bare minimum and say, well, I'll just say we saw it on scene, you're now risking the judge not believing it, right? The photo acts as evidence that it was actually there. Because
like it was crashed out or wherever.
Yeah, that it was on the scene. Like you actually had it in your custody, right? And not saying, trust me, bro. Because while law enforcement's word is higher than that of a civilian, you guys are still humans, and therefore your recollection is not infallible.
Maxwell, what was the example you just gave? I apologize.
Oh, no, I was just saying whether a judge would prefer the photo of the car being specifically on the street it crashed out on, or if it's in the garage, because there are a lot of times where officers will document it at the garage in the PD instead of having proof that it was on the scene where, like he's saying, we articulated it getting to this on Capitol, so-and-so crashed out and jumped into the next swap, because that's what they do all day. And honestly, right now it's gotten to a point where each shift is different. And I will tell you, some shifts are just marking them, having tow get them and take them to the impound.
Okay, some shifts. Are you saying shift 2, shift 3? What are you saying?
Well, I know I would say that we probably don't VAF as many cars recently in shift 1. I could be wrong, but I what I've noticed is we're not. Whereas I'm being told in shift 2 and shift 3, they are VAFing everything.
Can we short circuit this real quick? Do you have any members of your police force that have any ideas on what's wrong with VAFs?
Several.
Okay.
That's why we put together that VAF legislation.
Yeah. Nino Chavez, have no idea how dog shit the VAF system might actually be.
Well,
but right now it just sounds like you want to,
Mr. Nino, per
okay.
VAF to VAF a car. We have to stand on the scene, document it. Okay. But then when we get back to the PD, we have to create the VAF. And like you're saying, articulate it, which is fine, doing a report, and then creating it, finding the vehicle, creating the VAF template, and then We have to send it to the owner of the vehicle and finding their state ID and sending them a document stating that we VAF their car, because not all the time are they on scene. So it's about a 20 to 30-minute process from start to finish that people are doing every time they decide to VAF a car.
So what you're telling me is that the real issue with VAFing is that you don't have a way to record what is transpiring on the scene. Instead, you have to manually maintain all of that evidence in photographs and statements.
Right.
Whoa. It sounds like this IT guy's got to give you guys a better tool, to be honest. Because if you have a crashed out vehicle, other than documenting it exists there, I don't understand why you would have to manually do the rest of it.
Just like a one and done type of thing.
Yeah. So you're saying, I mean, you're saying essentially document the vehicle, put it in the report, attach a VAF, and the report see the evidence of it, right?
Right. But you have to add.
I think in theory, you guys look.
Like processing a person, you're processing a car. The same length of time.
Yeah,
Literally
that sounds about right.
Length.
Yeah.
And when you think about it,
I'm refracting really heavily on this. I hope you guys understand.
3 to 4 cars and one pursuit from, say, a Polito bank. So if we have the primary saying VAF that car, VAF that car, VAF that car, you'll see downstairs where we'll have 4 to 5 cars down there lined up to be VAF. But because there's not enough units, we're getting 78s this, 78s that. They're just piling up. And then somebody's spending 2 hours actually doing the work, or they're just getting forgotten about.
Can you just give me just 1 minute real quick?
Yeah.
78's channel 3.
So currently we make a VAF report. Is that right?
Not a VAF report. Well, we're making a VAF. Well, you go to the specific vehicle, into the specific vehicle's like background log. You create the VAF in there. Yes. You have to get which the template doesn't even auto populate, which is dumb. But
everyone's trying to solve the wrong problem.
Does every vehicle have its own vehicle? Is every vehicle automatically entered in here? So if somebody purchases,
the problem is they're trying to solve the wrong problem. I feel like Brian's got to be in here. I'm having a tough time with this.
No, have to go to the owner and find the vehicle.
I think that's the big problem, in my personal opinion. I wonder if this is something we can address. I mean, if anybody purchases a vehicle, it needs to be registered in their name, right? Inherently, if I run a plate and it comes back, it should be in this system right here. We already run plates. Why is it not in this system? Right? We get behind a car.
No,
we lock it with our radar.
Well, and I also think with, I really feel like, depending if anything gets changed right now, we should just be copying the VAF template and putting it in the actual report as well, because they get FOIA'd, and then say somebody like me is like, oh, let's look at this report for the VAF. I don't even know who VAF'd it. I don't know what's going on. It's more digging. So why not just
you know what it should be? And this all comes down to IT. That's the problem. That's the problem. I'm going to try to reach out. What if we got VAFs added? So when you create an incident, section where it says vehicles, you can choose to VAF off of that. What if we did something like that instead of having to?
What do you mean? When you create the incident, there being a section that says vehicle, you're saying?
Oh, so on incidents, there's already a section that says vehicles.
Right.
That's purely for documentation. What if that section turned into where you VAF?
I think people are adding cars there.
They are, but what if that did the VAF? What if that was the VAF right there?
I think that would make it a lot easier. Yeah. So we could VAF it through that. Yeah.
Basically, just open it up, fill in the plate number.
Right.
It auto populates.
It's all in one spot, and then boom, drop in the photos and evidence. Yeah.
And then the reason for it needs to be articulated in the report itself.
100%. Yeah.
Which you're already going to do anyways.
Yes. Person who's vaffing it should be doing that. Correct.
I'm gonna ask if we could do something like that. I just don't know how that would work out if we get that done.
Right, because I'm going to be honest, I don't think people really use the vehicle section like they used to years ago. It's not like, I think mostly when something's vaffed,
Nino.
they're doing it. But even then, I don't even.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking to the chief right now about it.
Report, you see this is the car that's vaffed and who created
Gotcha.
it, right?
All right. Right.
So when you click to create vehicle or whatever, it maybe instead of plate and reason, it's or vehicle being vaffed plate and then reason, boom, and then the officer who did it, because we want to know who vaffed it, right?
Right.
And that's, yeah, that would be a lot easier, I think.
Was that something there, Nino?
So it sounds like, am I understanding this correctly? You guys are having to.
So let's run you through it real quick, okay? Vehicle crashes out on scene, was involved in a robbery. We decide to VAF it, right? We document the vehicle on scene. We transport it here to PD. We then process the VAF, which includes creating a vehicle profile with the plate, the type of vehicle, photo. We have to do all that. We then create a VAF on that vehicle profile. We reference it in the report. Notify the owner. Get the vehicle towed. Is that right there, Maxwell?
Yes. You said create the VAF.
Yeah. You create the profile for the vehicle. You then create the VAF under it. You notify the owner. Yeah. So it's.
Yeah. Then you.
I mean, just talking Maxwell
then
here.
you create a document and then you send them the document. Yes.
Why are we vaffing?
Why? It's intended to be a deterrent for using these vehicles to seize them ultimately. If they use them in violent crimes.
Is that working?
No.
Nope.
So why do it?
Exactly.
Well, we're trying to create a system that does deter, which has a monetary value with it, as well as
the problem is, Turner, is based on my understanding, the cost of the vehicle is virtually zero.
True.
So the system that we proposed had to do with the type of crime it's involved in, and a fine was involved with the level of crime. So if it's a violent felony, including shooting, injury, bodily injury.
Rosa has to go.
Well,
okay. There was a heavier fine because that's what we're trying to deter.
Well, let me put it this way: what are the top 3 vehicles used that end up getting VAF'd?
Astron. I know those are
Tough
cheap.
one. Yeah.
Oh, the new one. What is that? What the hell is that car? It looks like a station wagon. That's the latest one.
Yeah. So I mean, I understand the point you're gonna say. They're cheap cars. People are leaving them be.
Yep.
Are you saying we just stop VAFing?
I think certain cars, maybe. I that's what I'm weighing. I don't want to make a determination. The problem that is being faced right now, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that you're doing a shitload of work. I just got done talking to a cop on the phone. It sounds like you need to do the same amount of work to VAF a vehicle as you would to press charges on someone and win in court. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean
that seems like a big fucking waste of time, to be honest.
That is, and the problem is if we up the deterrent fines, more repercussions, whatever the case may be, then we're talking about escalating violence over it.
Yep, I agree.
Right?
And so,
and we're not looking to quote unquote back someone in a corner here, and and make them shoot over a vehicle and make them, which let me clarify. They are deciding to shoot. We're not making them, but they're more inclined to. It's finding the happy medium that I believe is a deterrent. Say, you know what? There's my, as the kids say, op on the street. But I'm in my car. I'm not gonna. If I shoot, then I'm gonna get this car and I'm gonna get this big fine. Whatever the case may be, right? The intention is to have a deterrent in place, and a way for people to be accountable for what they're doing with their personal vehicles and using them. You go too hard, people will do crazy things for cars, and right now we're too soft. So where's the happy medium? Because people have to be worried about using their personal cars. These cars with $1 million in parts inside of it.
The problem is, I feel like this is solving. I don't have the answer. I feel like it feels, I agree with the deterrent thing, and I get that. It's just hard for me to hear that it, like a $30,000 Astron, in order to seize it, you effectively need to do 3 full reports for a vehicle in order for that to happen, and the cost to do it is kind of cooked.
Correct, which is why, and we can't touch a parts because no parts are serialized. They're not illegal to have going through the cars, right? We tried bringing that up before.
It's like trying to find a solution when you don't have the proper tools to solve it.
Right, the tools are a big problem, and that's, again, we have the ability to. We could find someone for using those vehicles. The fine, which is scaling with how many points are on it, as well as
yeah, I get what you're saying.
No, sorry, I'm looking at the legislation just in the corner of my eye. I saw that there's on a 4-point. Interesting. Injury inducing. Okay, so we saved 3 points. All right, sorry, that caught my
no, you're good.
Corner of my eye.
Is this VAP legislation targeting people or the vehicle?
It is targeting both.
Well, yeah, but the VAF is on the vehicle, not the person.
But the fine is on the person.
Yeah. So
but, again, I'm talking about the new VAF that we've been
absolutely
trying to push for a while or work on.
The challenge here is, I think if you want my honest opinion, I think you guys need a better tool to handle vehicles that you're seizing. And that, in conjunction to everything else, starts to make a lot more sense. Because ultimately, even with this new VAF system, you're still wasting resources on a car instead of having those resources maintained on the primary target, which is the perpetrators.
What does that tool look like?
Well, based on my conversation with unknown source, someone in your department, they suggested that maybe when you go and mark this thing for seizure, it should pull the gasket of the engine. So the vehicle becomes irreparable until it goes through impound. So
maybe it gets shooed.
Yeah. Because like it's all duct tape. You got this entire solution is duct tape. It's, based on what it sounds like, you guys got 6 people on a Polito robbery. You go chase. Now all of a sudden there's an interference car, and now 2 of those 6 units are staying back to pretty much process this thing, and then 4 are chasing this. Now 2 more vehicles get involved, and all of a sudden you keep chopping off units just to process a car. It's fucking stupid, right?
I mean, I don't disagree with you. The problem is I'm working with what I have and not what I hope to have, right?
I think we should have that hope to have conversation because this is
I
done.
mean, there's a lot more that gets involved then. There's definitely a lot more. So if you have a contact,
Yep.
you let me know, because I will put some. I mean, again,
Let's have
all
a-
this
let's-
that
let's
we
have-
put together is very much.
Let's have a
what
chat.
we have.
Let's have a.
Okay.
I'm gonna get permission for us to have a chat on an island somewhere on this
All right.
because
Sounds good. You let me know.
all right. Okay, easy.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I think we covered most everything, unless Maxwell, Nino, you have anything else you want to cover?
Nope.
Mm.
Appreciate you coming down.
Yeah,
Appreciate the conversation. You let me know. I'll be there anytime, any day.
All right,
That
easy,
island chat.
easy. All right, y'all have a good evening.
Take care, Nino.
You too.
arrived and nobody just went hum in it. So I said, well, if you if you're gonna do a dispatch like that.
All these other solutions, I don't know. It's adding more cumbersomeness